everybody, welcome to Real Life Sci-Fi here on Shrub Home Video. I'm Wade.
I'm Willie.
And I'm Erin.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/reallifescifi. But there's also a link tree if you just go to reallifescifi.show.
Yeah. Oh, jinx. Got him.
Let's welcome aboard. Oh, wait. First of all, this is how do I say it? This is a podcast about paranormal and contemporary mythology where we talk about fun things. Don't take it too seriously. We're not Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Let's welcome aboard the SSRLSF. It's our friend. He's worked on CSI Vegas, American Horror Story, 1984. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's special effects makeup artist Lawrence Mercado.
Woo, 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 woo.
What up?
What up?
Hello. Sorry. Yes, Mike.
I
don't
just
usually
told
have this.
him.
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
And then it touched my lip. And now I'm scared. Something's going to grow on my lip.
Well, if anything grows, send us the bill. We'll take care of it.
Oh, nice.
And we'll send it to a lab, and they'll figure out what it is for you.
Oh, appreciate that, guys.
We have a
No one's
whole
ever done that for me.
research
Well,
lab
actually, I do get that done.
here.
Every day I go into set. We have to get tested.
Oh, yeah.
So they do let it know if I have something.
That's
COVID
wild.
mainly.
Did you
Well, I
have
can't say that.
COVID?
I got it once here, and then I got it once in Atlanta. And we had like a get together with some friends, and they will never let me down or let it down that I was patient zero at that party
Oh, no.
because I didn't know I had it.
That's not your fault.
Everybody was like, "You're fine." I was like, "I feel weird," and they're like, "No, you're gonna be okay." Pass me the joint, and then I did, and all those people sick, and I was like, "Oh fuck, I'm so sorry."
That's a weird thing that we do where not just with COVID, but with any sickness, it's like we try to trace it back and blame the person who gave it to us.
Yeah.
Well, if I can't blame anybody, it was my fiance.
Uh,
She definitely gave it to
Whoa.
me, but yeah, it was bad.
well, so
Oh, man.
don't talk about the topic yet because we'll get to that. But how into this world of sort of conspiracy theories are you?
Well, I've known Aaron for quite some time, and we talk a lot about it, just in general for fun.
Yeah.
So a lot.
Yeah, because
And
it's fun to talk about. Do
it's
you have a
interesting.
favorite?
In the whole, the theory on this topic, or just in
No,
general?
no, in the
Like
entire.
if you're just at a party
Oh,
and you're
man.
like, I'm going to talk about...
Absolutely. The one Garrett did, Ross, that was one of my favorite ones. And I was just like, that's so,
JFK.
the JFK one. And it's crazier that more and more keep coming out.
Yeah.
Like,
The more you learn,
yeah,
the
it's
more
nuts.
you like. It just doesn't stop.
I
I
think
know.
like, I mean, it's a hot take, but I do think that is going to be our generation's like 9/11 at some point, where there's all these theories about it. And then when all of us are old, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that actually something that we all thought about conspiracy wise is real. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck.
What
but
do you
again-
think? What do you think happened?
9/11?
No.
I was like, well,
JFK.
oh, it's exactly what I like that documentary, The Smoking Gun. It was a little crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
I
it's
haven't.
it's generally just this guy does this whole, his theory was about a couple of things clumped together, but he like kind of dwindled it down to it being essentially it was us accidentally. We're the only ones that had these new assault rifles in our hands as the government, because they get all the new weapons prior to, and we had an assault rifle for the first time, and one of the guys that was new to the CIA dropped it, and it shot John F. Kennedy in the back of the head, pushing out through this way, which it was a great direction, and it came out, and the way it looked, the way Garrett was talking about it is very similar. But it was us the whole time, and we
Yeah.
were so embarrassed about it that we were like,
That's
the camera follows it back, and it's Steve Urkel like, and I knew that.
seriously.
He looked at him and he's like, "The building behind me."
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Someone behind you.
And yeah, I mean, I like that because if had that happened, Secret Service would probably like,
Oh,
we're not going to all
absolutely.
lose our jobs. Like,
Yeah.
let's-
Or
For
like,
sure.
we're going to look so dumb to everybody. They're going to take all of our guns away from us. But yeah, that was the Smoking Gun one that I saw. That is one of my favorite kind of, besides what we're talking about, alien stuff is generally a big thing too. And yeah.
Okay,
Bigfoot.
well, we do something here on the show called the Sob Scale.
Do you always do that face with it?
No. know.
Oh.
It's a little different every time, you know? That's why you gotta tune in.
The Sob scale stands for skeptic or believer. It's a 5-question quiz. At the end, I will give you a grade. If you're more of a 0, you're more of a believer. If you're more of a 5, you're more of a skeptic. But you can just answer the questions, however. Don't worry about that number.
Okay.
Are you ready to be weighed on the Sob scale?
Yes.
First question, 3-parter. Do you believe in aliens? If so, have they visited Earth? If so, have they visited Earth in the last 300 years?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think they're the green guys, or what do you think they are?
I don't think so. I think they're. I always think about it as a cocoon. You know how they're kind of like light beings.
Yeah.
So I always like that thought of it is because there's a lot more
with the skin.
Yeah. That they can enter things and
With
do
the
what they
skin.
need to do.
That skin. What was that?
It's weird how they had. Why did they get old people though?
Well, the old people just happened to.
Do you know? But you know what I mean. If that's their skin, why choose?
No,
Because no one would
they-
believe
No, it
like
was
a
just Brian
teenager.
Dennehy.
No one would believe a teenager.
Yeah, I guess.
No matter how hot the teenager is.
But think about that. You had an option to go to a suit store
Uh-huh.
and put on the coolest suit in there, and you put on a fucking like.
Well, who would you
I don't
wear?
know. Who would I wear?
Yeah, you're like, you pick the coolest suit. Maybe you think the weird wrinkly one is like really cute.
Yeah.
Like,
You know
who
what?
would
Yeah,
wear?
maybe just to be a weirdo.
Lady Gaga.
I would
wear
definitely-
Lady Gaga.
You guys.
No.
Yeah,
The old people were
people.
not aliens.
Yeah.
They
Wait.
they just discovered the aliens.
It was all the people on the boat with Brian Dennehy. So they're like all middle-aged men. There was one
Oh.
girl.
Yeah, there was
That-
like
I miss. Yeah, yeah, that's on me. Sorry about that. Either way, those kinds of aliens,
okay.
I think, are pretty cool as a thought.
Next question: do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
Do you have a ghost story?
Yes, actually, it's more. I don't know if it's ghost or you be the judge. I don't know if it's a ghost or
You be the judge.
say you be the judge. I don't know if it's that or demon-y things. We went to a haunted house that was in Texas. I'm from San Antonio originally, and there was a house that was in the middle of this forest that was still kind of like a hangout with people
Mhm.
kind of thing. So we'd go and kind of like screw with it a little bit.
Abandoned. People just go there.
Yeah,
party.
yeah. And it was fine. Like, we just thought we got really tough, and we jumped in my van, and there was like probably 10 of us, and we went to this house, kind of abandoned, whatever. So we all brought our flashlights. We went out into the forest, and we figured out where we were going. No joke. As soon as we got on the property, it immediately dropped like 5 or 6 degrees. It felt so weird. I was like, "There's no way this is happening right now." But it was outside. We parked our cars outside of the kind of forest line, walked through, and as soon as we passed, the only thing that was left was kind of like the gate brick, where you could still see where the gate
Yeah.
was. And we walked through 10 degrees or 6 or 7, whatever degrees down, and I was just like, "Wow, that got really cold." I could see my breath, which was so weird because it didn't feel like it was that cold. I know that face is a little weird, but
I just like, it's like gross. Like, your story's
Yeah.
gross, dude. I don't like it.
I'm sorry. But I'm going to continue
Yeah, go ahead.
and say
Gross
that
me out.
we go into the house, and it's kind of a creaky place, so there's no windows. So we're all walking, hand on everyone's shoulder. We're all like, okay, we're going to this room, and yeah, my friend was just like, "If there's anybody in this house, just hit the wall or something now." Dude, 3 big thumps. Everyone just freaked out, ran out. We get in the van, and we're about to drive off, and we get freaked out because one of our friends comes running out of the house. I'm like, "What the fuck? Where were you at?" Can I cuss? Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so we're like, "What the fuck were you at?"
It's a children's
And
podcast.
And he and he said, he was like, "Oh, I was the last one. I fell through the floor and I was screaming for you guys." I was
Oh
like,
my
"Holy
gosh.
He
shit!"
fell through the floor.
He fell through the floor up to here, and he caught himself, and he couldn't get up.
No
and we all
way.
had run out of the
Oh.
house, and he was in the house by himself in the furthest room in the back, trying to get out of this hole. And I was just like, "I'm so sorry we
What
left
if a
you,
ghost
man."
like just like,
Oh man.
pulled his pants down?
That's kind of the closest thing ghost-wise I've ever really like.
Oh, that's so sad.
That's
That's
I
so
hate
funny.
that.
And I
Ugh.
did get to go ghost hunting with the Ghost Hunter guys from the TV show
Oh no, the Ghost Bros.
in El Paso. No. It was like the ghost. It was like right. They're called Ghost Hunters.
I
the
don't
original
know.
one.
There's a lot. I've never seen any.
Yeah,
of
the
those
original
shows.
one. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, those guys. We were at a convention and they were there, and we all went ghost hunting with them. And abandoned, kind of. The first 3 floors were still kind of doing their own thing, but it was a hospice. and it was real weird. And we went with like the PKA meters and everything. It was
I
was
did
very
that with
odd.
that guy once in a different
Really?
con. Yeah,
Oh, dude, it was crazy. I was just like, oh,
he's
interesting.
really cool.
Yeah. All those dudes are really
He was
nice.
the main guy, right?
No, I think it was. Oh, it was the England version, the British guys. There was a real creepy perverty ghost that kept following one of the girls around. It was real weird because her PKA meter kept going off wherever she was, no matter what, and they kept switching them with her, and they still were like going crazy. It was nuts. But yeah, those are the two
Who
things.
touched my butt? Who is touching my butt?
Someone's just smelling my front.
My front, just everything is going up and down. It's real weird.
None of your friends ever confessed years later. Oh, I found it. None of your friends ever confessed. I'm sorry. There's a loose screw.
There's a loose
that
screw on
drives
this
me
chair.
Crazy.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was gone.
Sorry, we'll switch it later.
Have you guys ever looked under to see if it was there or not? Just to like.
It's
Or
just
it's
it's
just
like a
feeling
screw
it.
right
Oh,
here.
okay,
It's just right here, and the threads they don't work, and so I can't screw it in. So I play with it, and it drives me crazy.
Fair enough.
Well, did any of your friends later admit that they just pounded on the wall?
No. Funny enough, no. No, nobody's ever really
I
done that.
wonder because it was dark, right?
It was dark. But I was towards the front, and it came in front of us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
why
so-
I think everybody ran back the other way, and when we were
Hmm.
turning around, that guy got out went the wrong
shit.
way.
Oh shit!
Fell
Oh
through the
shit!
floor.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
it was super weird.
That's
But
fucking scary.
he was the smallest dude with us. Like, I felt so bad. We were about to leave him.
Bigfoot?
Oh yeah,
You do?
I do.
Oh wow.
I think
You're
I'm
a rare
so
bird.
into it.
You're like the
I
first
love it
one in a
all.
while that's
Yeah.
believed in Bigfoot.
Really?
Yeah. So
What's-
he appreciates it.
Thank you, Bigfoot.
Oh no, his fur's coming off.
Yeah, he's stage squatch. Leave him
Stage
alone.
squatch.
Psychics?
Stage squatch.
I like that. Psychics. Yeah, I think so. I think there's some stuff that we I don't know, we're able to do at one point as humans and can't do it anymore because we've just dumbed ourselves down. And there's some people that maybe surpass all of that and don't like just read a lot of fucking books and don't ever watch TV or own a phone, and they just like, I don't know.
Connect.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
All right. Do you believe in the simulation theory that we're living in a simulation?
Sometimes. Like, yeah, sometimes.
Are you religious? You're from Texas.
Spiritual, not religious. We were raised Episcopalian
Okay.
and pretty much Catholic, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a definite huge reason why I have such a imposter syndrome. Every time someone's like, "Oh, you worked on something," I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I guess." But there's a whole team of people. I mean, I'm like, I always have to explain myself, and it's really weird. But I do bring it back to that because I feel like as Catholic, you were always told like, don't
Explain
celebrate,
yourself.
yeah, or don't celebrate because they'll take it away from you.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
be cool and accept it. Be humble.
Yeah, it's a great way to ruin people.
It was a weird
Yeah.
thing. It's very odd, but no, not very religious. More so than like, believe in.
You
Whatever.
got the guilt and nothing else.
yeah.
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I honestly just think, because I have friends that are like Satanists and some that are just don't believe in anything. They're just like, whatever, we die and that's it. And we're talking to them about stuff too. The one thing they said, one of our friends said, which always stuck with me, and I was just like, oh man, that's so bleak, but it makes sense and it's very interesting. Is, do you remember before you were born? Anything at all?
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
I used to ask my kid that.
So
Do
yeah.
you remember before you were? Do you remember when you used to be big? And he
he
had some stories for a little bit.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, well,
That's
leading
question,
man.
I think that's.
Do you remember when you used to be big? Oh yeah, I'm a kid. I'm just gonna lie my ass off right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, but it's just like.
Well, what is that? So reincarnation.
Yeah.
I believe in that.
Yeah.
I genuinely, wholeheartedly, I think just there's some things that like
Respawn.
my cousin. I was just talking to my mom about it. My cousin just had a kid a couple years ago, and she's kind of like getting older. Like she's like tiny, but she reminds me of my grandma so much. It's weird, and she looks. Her features are very much so my grandmother too. And I was just like, none of the other people in our family look like her. And this little girl came out. same curly hair and everything. I'm just like, yeah, genetics, I get it.
Right.
But man, it's so weird. Even when she like laughs and stuff, I'm like, okay, it's very odd, but it's pretty cool.
It's kind of perverse though, right? To die and then come back as like a relative, like to
Just
No, it's
stay.
your soul group.
Yeah, it's your tribe.
I don't know about this.
Wade, we're in our soul group right now.
Oh, great.
You're in mine.
So I'm stuck with
Do
you
you-
guys
do you
for
feel-
all of my life.
Do you ever feel like
Yeah.
you've met people
Fuck.
before that you've ever like met that you're just
Yeah,
like, I'm
this guy.
so in like, not
Yeah,
yeah.
there's some people I meet where I'm like
Okay.
we feel like best friends.
Yes.
Because we're
Yeah.
jumping there already.
Yeah. And
And I believe that could be random too, but I'm like, sometimes it's like, oh, this is we know each other.
it's just that feeling, and it's weird. It's a weird feeling, but it definitely happens, especially when you just meet somebody randomly in the wild, where you're like, I didn't even know you before this, and now I'm like, you're pretty cool. I want to hang out
I
with you.
should get your number.
Yeah.
I said that
Hello.
to so many strangers. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
man, this
We're friends now, I guess. Shit.
I'm creeped out by those people. This one guy like watched Deadpool, and I was going to a bar, and he came out of the movie theater, and he was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Like, and we were talking. I don't know why. And he's like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Wade." And he's like, "Whoa, that's Deadpool's name. This is like fate, dude." And I was just like, yeah,
That's
totally.
different. That's
It's just creeping me out. I ran into the bar and was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be in here now."
gotta go.
I could see him
just
from the
like
door,
Deadpool. Like
looking
you
at
don't
me.
like me.
Oh, you stabbed me just like Deadpool.
Well, you're a straight up 5.
Congrats.
You're a
That's
believer.
really rare.
Oh, thank you.
You're a
let's-
true believer, the highest we've had.
Appreciate
Let's get into the topic. What do you say, Willie?
You. Tonight on Real Life Sci-Fi, the mysterious moon. Holographic? Hologram? Have we even been there? Was the moon placed there? By aliens? Gods? I don't know. We're going to get into a bunch of different moon mysteries tonight on Real Life Sci-Fi.
Bow, bow, bow. So you're really into the moon.
Yeah.
You picked this topic.
Yes
You
and
picked
no.
it from a list.
He picked
Well-
no. He picked cryptids first, and I was
Oh.
like,
I
"Well,
did,
we just
yeah.
did cryptids." And Gary, our friend Garrett, told me that you had an interesting take on the moon, and I don't even know what it is. He just told me to ask you, and I waited until this morning, this evening, to know what it was.
Copy. Okay.
Well, should we start there or
Yeah, let's do that because we can bounce all over the moon.
Oh my god, I
yeah.
read this book, Who Built the Moon,
Yeah.
by Christopher Knight and Alan Butler. I could talk about this book for days. And I
Okay,
won't,
well,
'cause
we
you're gonna
have
talk first.
37 minutes, so
37 minutes.
Yeah, what's your take on the moon, my brother?
It's very hard to just start off on it. Wait, do you guys believe in this at all?
You want me to jump into some stuff first?
I don't
Sure.
believe any of this. I think it's a moon.
But what? What is it? What's a moon to you? Like what is
I think
it?
it's it was like an asteroid that got trapped in our orbit or something.
Okay, that's part of the thing that people have looked into for quite some time, and when they did, there's a couple of things that kind of throw that theory out the window, which is insane.
Yeah.
The
To even think
coincidences are insane.
Yes, everything about the fact that just the rocks on the moon, the top layer of those that they've sampled, are older than the bottom layer.
So it's like it was
because-
built inside out
Or
or outside
the
in.
only time that ever happens on Earth is when we excavate anything or blow anything up or dig. That's when the bottom layer comes to the top.
I think
But it's
probably it's like
all over the
traveling
moon.
through space, and like other particles are just jumping onto it.
Also
going like,
another
"We're gonna do
theory-
this too.
But they kind of also, I'm sorry. I
No, it's
keep
okay.
doing-
Go ahead.
There's another thing that they said, if that is the case, then hurled through space, got stuck in our orbit. That's what made it do its thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the chances of that happening and the chances of all of it making us okay and calming our seas down and that the
Mhm.
reason why it is what it is
Yeah.
so crazy. Just like, I mean, the moon, the way Earth was created itself is also crazy.
Yeah.
But if it did hit us or come off of us, apparently the rocks and rare metals that they find on Earth are only made, I guess, the human way, like through chemicals, to make the things that they find on the moon. What they find on the moon is in abundance, and it should be in abundance here as well, but
Like
it's
titanium.
not. Yeah,
it's wrapped in titanium.
it's kind of crazy. It's
Yeah.
a little interesting.
And also the thing about the asteroid coming in, the way that is disproved is the fact that there is like a type of glass that's formed on Earth and the moon at the same time, which means that they were formed at the same time in the same distance from the sun because of how they formed.
Big Bang.
However, a lot of the material.
I'm your friend now. Oh, I'm the Earth. I'm
Okay,
the moon.
if that happened, if it did
Besties.
get hit, it would have had to have been at the complete beginning, the formation of like a ball of magma that eventually becomes our core. The density of that would have just absorbed the shock. It'd be like bouncing off a sponge.
It's kind of like in order for it to have hit the Earth at that time, it would have just melted with it.
Can I
Yeah.
tell you what people think right now? Although everyone agrees it's flawed, it's the most agreed.
Sure.
Okay, so it's called the Big Whack 2. So everyone thinks the Big Whack was the original thing, that's a planetary body hit Earth as it was forming, and it spun, causing some of the material to get wrapped around in orbit. The problem with that theory is that the Earth would have spun too fast to help create life and to cool off properly.
And the moon wouldn't be spinning at the same speed.
Yeah, and the moon
Yeah.
would not be spinning at the proper speed. The Big Whack 2 suggests that something else came and hit it the other way. The thought that the probability of that happening is so impossibly small that it just can't happen. But this is the accepted theory right now of what it is.
That it's what is the accepted theory? That
Big Whack 2, that something hit it,
the moon.
something hit Earth and it
Oh,
like knocked off a
split
thing
up.
of the moon, and then something else came the other way to rotate Earth and tilt it in the proper way, and then the moon is just a bunch of debris that were like rings around it from the Big Whack, and it eventually formed into a ball.
Uh-huh.
But like one of the main things about the moon's composition is that it's made of the lightest things on Earth, the lightest materials from Earth.
Yes, that's the crazier thing is on Earth, more dense things are in the middle of the Earth.
Like iron.
Yeah, all these dense
What if
things
it's on
that
the
make
moon?
the Earth what it is and how heavy it could be. On the moon, it's opposite. The most dense part of it's on the top, and the lightest is in the middle, which leads more people to believe that it is hollow for some reason, or it has some sort of artificial core. And one of them is also because in what was it? There's two scientists that ended up, or no, it was Apollo 11. They purposely dropped their lunar lander when they were taking off.
It was Apollo 13.
Well, Apollo 11 did it first.
Oh, okay.
When they dropped their lunar lander, that thing hit the surface from the height that it was coming off of, and it rang the seismometer. What seismometer?
It was
Seisgraph?
Apollo 13.
What is it
because
called?
they put the seismometers
Seismograph?
on
That's the second one.
Apollo 12 of the seismometers, and then Apollo 13 is what they said it rang like a bell because they dropped it right by the seismometer.
Okay, so the first one rang for an hour the first time they did it, and the second time it rang for 4 hours.
When they say when it rang,
The
all
vibration.
it all the seismic activity lasted for
That long.
Yeah.
that long.
And it spanned up to, I think it was 110 miles
Yeah.
is what it was like kind of going, which also leads them to believe that it's hollow. And also the if you look at the craters themselves are different sizes widthwise, but they're all the same depth essentially,
Mhm.
which one of the guys explained as if you just put a thin cooking pan on a flat surface, poured sand into it, flattened it out, dropped a tennis ball, a baseball, and a marble. All of them would make the same shape or different shapes because
Mhm.
they're wider, but they all can't go any deeper because there's something stopping it. That's hard enough to stop an asteroid from going any deeper into its soil. Which is another reason.
And that's the crazy thing. It's like those craters are asteroids going at meteors, whatever, going at big speeds.
Oh, yeah.
And the depths aren't. So that like anybody who's trying to debunk that says, oh, well, the stuff, the dust just settled again. But that's just not how that
But
works either.
in every single one, even if it was settling, it would still settle on that core.
And the way that the moon, all those craters are, there aren't many that you can observe of meteors or objects coming from different angles. They all look the craters look like they just hit straight down, because there are I have seen a couple, but for that, like, oh, this one hit this way and sprayed that way, but for the most part they're all
And can we talk about the freaking like uneven gravity of the moon?
Yep.
Like the gravity on the moon is denser in some places than other places. Like we can't just land anywhere on the moon.
Yeah.
Because it's not consistent gravity like we experience on Earth.
But on Earth, anywhere there isn't consistent gravity is because the layer of the land is so thick from
or
it's like
there's
the
an
thickest
eclipse.
part.
It fucks with the gravity of Earth.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can do that. They figured that out with a pendulum experiment.
Because they line up in the
Like
they don't go off. They like hit each other the right way.
Yeah, like a pendulum does this,
Yeah,
right? Like in a circle or whatever. They were doing like time experiments with megalithic yards or something, and it just happened to be during the time of an eclipse because it was like a set amount of time, like over months, and that was the time that it got all fucked up. And they're like, "Whoa, what?" So the next time there was an eclipse, they like set up all of these other experiments, and they figured out that the gravity in the shadow gets all fucked up.
That's pretty rad.
Isn't that rad?
Do you guys think that the Mac Tonight guy is real?
Yes, that's Doug Jones. He's awesome.
Isn't he like an alt-right icon?
Oh, they
like appropriated him.
They did. I forgot about that. Yeah, the Moon Man or whatever, the Mac Tonight guy.
He's like white supremacy.
What?
Yeah.
How? What?
Same way that frog is.
Just a lot of racist people eat Jack in the Box?
No,
Wait,
they're like
McDonald's.
he's white and has sunglasses. Oh, I'm in.
Into it.
Those
He hates
assholes.
all ethnicities. Nice.
Yeah.
So do you think it's hollow?
I really like thinking it is. I do.
and with it being hollow, do you
Just
think that
out of all the stuff that's gone on, I guess, even 1970, I think they had so it's not supposed to have any atmosphere, essentially.
Yeah.
The moon, but they've
that's the story.
they found that there was this huge water gas cloud that was stayed on the surface for I think 40 hours for a while, and then it just dissipated. But they had no reasoning.
So this
like if there's no atmosphere, how does there be water or glass?
The moon not having an atmosphere would mean if there was water on there, it would basically reverse osmosis, or osmosis. I mean, just go out into space. Nothing would keep the water on the surface. This is and so within the last I don't know, recently, I mean, for a long time they said ice was on the moon. Now they're saying that there is actually water on the surface, which is crazy because, and NASA says this, that because there's water on the surface, it might not be, it's like mixed into the dirt. So it's like parts per million. It's not like oceans or puddles of water, but the water is mixed into the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically impossible. So there is something trapping the water on the moon, and there's also something generating the water on the moon. It's coming from the inside. It's not.
It's a big Brita filter.
It's the guys. It's this thing that I'm talking about.
What?
The night?
No, the moon.
Wait.
The moon. It's just like it's magnetic or something, and all these things want to be a part of it, and that's why they settle into the crevices and they make it the same.
Well, if it is
depth
magnetic,
and,
some people think it's magnetic because it's a ship of some sort, ancient ship that's still pulling energy.
well,
from
that would
things.
fuck up all the computers.
If they're not the computers that are more high tech than us, it wouldn't really affect us in any way.
I think it would erase all the computers.
If it wasn't for the moon, we wouldn't be here.
Well, but that's the other thing. Us being here is a coincidence, and astronomical odds. So
we
all
have
of this
no
coincidence
idea.
stuff
Sorry.
is like part of it. It's like, yeah.
We have no idea how DNA, like, we figured it out all the way to the primordial soup in the beginning, but the only thing we can't figure out is how DNA began. Like, they've tried the primordial test, they did lightning and all of the things that were supposedly on Earth in the beginning, then they created amino acids, and they're like, yeah, cool, we did it! But you still need something or someone to seed the DNA to start the process of life on Earth. And like, if it wasn't for the moon, yeah, there might be water on Earth, but the moon was so close, it was causing these huge storms, and it was just bashing against whatever land was there, mixing up all of the minerals to feed the things in the planet to eventually become the creatures that crawl out of the fish that walk on land, that move into trees, that become us, you know?
So what are you thinking?
That someone had to... Okay, so this is honestly, after reading this book, I'm like, this is the best theory I can think of. There is some seeding race that knows how to seed, that knows what a planet needs to create a 10-fingered creature like them. So they come to the beginning of Earth and they're like, okay, cool, this is like a really good planet. What do we need? What do we need to do to
Guys,
make this?
check this one out. It just started.
Yeah, well, like okay, so if we weren't tilted on our axis, we would be both like unbearably hot around the middle, and then the poles would just be frozen.
Our seasons wouldn't work the same.
Yeah, we would not survive. Because the moon is there, we're tilted at an axis of 22 degrees that helps rotate and keep the Earth mostly water. So they're like, okay, so in order to keep this Earth mostly water, this planet mostly water, we need to take a certain percent of the material off of it. So they create tiny black holes to suck only the lightest materials off of the planet. You would only have to be the force of Mount Kilimanjaro to suck all of the lightest particles off. And they put it all up in the sky and make our moon. They make the moon out of the material. This leaves space for the ocean to grow and for whatever's left to start churning and making land, so that like plate tectonics can happen. So we're constantly regenerating all of our crust, and it creates the perfect environment for the eventual evolution of the 10-fingered creature that they seeded the DNA for in the planet, so that one day they can figure out
could be president.
Yeah, so that one day Joe Biden can be president. One day they can finally go to the moon, be fascinated by the moon, and then one day wonder who put it there, because the ratios and the math between the moon, the sun, and the earth are fucking insane. And the only way that you can communicate something like, we are here, come and find us, is through ratios, not through any kind of other math, because any mathematical unit can be put into a ratio and like,
is that what the golden ratio is?
The golden ratio, that could be part of it, but it's more of like...
No, that's give other people the sandwich amount that you want to have.
I'm trying to find the ratio.
That's why pizzas are cut that way. The golden ratio.
What? Okay.
Like 3.
That was a lot, but I'm in it. I'm into it.
I just read this whole book in like 3 days.
It's kind of like
crazy.
The situation is so perfect that the parallel is we are lizards looking at the timer for the heat rock that we sit on. It's just like life would not be here if not for the moon.
Sure.
And sure that like life might be. There are some ideas that like with panspermia, and that maybe our situation is not so unique, and this happens in other solar systems too.
Yeah.
But we still need all of these things to be so specific in ours.
Aren't there other Earths that they found, or other things that could be Earth at some point?
I would say that there's more than thousands of planets in the Goldilocks zones that they've found.
Sure.
And we are finding, and so ice is possible throughout space, but water isn't. That's so like water on the moon is like completely unique, but ice, most of the comets are just big rocks of ice.
Mars has ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of Mars? I know it's off topic, but what do you think of? Do you think that was inhabited at some point? Like that theory of like that we're trying to go back because we've already there and we left some shit that we can go back for.
Maybe.
And like it's just a weird, but it's also a Total Recall situation.
But that's where they got it from, though. You know, but I do think that there was life on Mars before, and maybe we Noah's Ark here from there.
I like thinking that because more and more people are always kind of now getting like, "Ooh, but we're the aliens, brother." And to me, that's more like a, you know what? Yeah, maybe. I mean, possibly that. There was so all that said about what I ranted about earlier. There was two. I think what was it 1970s? There was two Soviet scientists that took all of that information, all those coincidences, and essentially were like, what we think is it's hollow, and that, you know what? Yeah, it was a spaceship that was left here eons ago. I don't know why. I don't know what that thing is, but it has no real purpose of it. And they've even looked further into Greek mythology and Roman mythology. The further it goes back, the less they ever mention or anything about the moon. And there were so many stories that were like about the sky and the stars and all that. And there's also a time and period of writing that they call the before the moon or before the moon appeared situation, where you're just like, wait, what? And they say this thing showed up one day and it was there back in old times. Like, and you're just
so
like,
weird.
oh, it just showed up one day and everyone's like, what is that?
But
And it
that
just became
doesn't
normal.
track with that we need it to live, right?
I see, and that's the thing. When she explained that, now I'm more like, well, maybe we do need it, or we need it be like if somebody was addicted to something, like if the Earth, if we need it to be there for, I don't know, not like. I'm so high.
Well,
Like if
but
it
anyway.
was gone,
in that realm,
fine,
though,
dude.
it's good.
if it was gone, we would figure it out. But because it's there, it's like, oh yeah, we'll just. Hey, look, there's cocaine here. Let's do it.
Sure, yeah, but but we haven't also. I know we're going back at some point. Why haven't we gone back? If we want to know so much about it, that blows my mind
It's
that we've
because
never.
Everyone's trying so hard to be the first one to do everything else. They're like, we've already been on the moon.
let me tell you why we haven't been back.
Ooh, tell
Please.
us.
We had 2 planned missions that were already paid for, 2 more Apollo missions, and they had primary and secondary crew. It was all ready to go. But the problem is the bureaucracy. NASA is a government entity that does not make money. So what does it do? It takes taxpayers' money to pay for this. And so they just shuffled the money around. So we didn't go back because they wanted this shit money somewhere else. But we can go back now because of the privatization of space.
Mm.
Did you know that SpaceX makes like $4 to $12 billion every time they launch a rocket? I don't know how, but they make money. And maybe it's because they
What?
reuse that material. I don't know, but they actually
I think
profit.
they're launching like dead bodies into space.
Right? How do you profit?
They're
off
all
of
his
sending a rocket?
ex-girlfriends.
Yeah, the mafia.
All right, who do you want to get rid of? The SpaceX is going up.
But they're
Oh,
but they're
Frankie
definitely-
Two Toes needs to
Hey, no, it was empty payload. What are we talking about here?
go. Well,
But so because of that, and the reason, this is off topic too, but I'm gonna jump into it. The reason why we made the Space Force is just money. Now the government has a reason to have defense for everyone that's going into space. The private people going into space. Because whoever gets to the moon first, like in order for us to do work in space, we have to have a base in space. And
I like that song, the Signs. The Signs. That's by Base in Space,
the
right?
base of space.
the base of space. Yes.
You know, they keep talking about all these asteroids that they could mine. They could go to the asteroid belt, mine these asteroids. And nothing weigh. Things don't have weight in space, so you can get tons and tons of shit, but you can't land it on Earth.
Well,
'cause-
but yeah, let's talk about it being a spaceship. Let's talk about it being fun.
I'm getting into that. Is that so? In order for us to do anything in space, we have to have a base in space. So one idea is that The moon was created because eventually either we would have to go into space and this is base for us, or the beings that put us here needed to have a place to operate in space.
See, that is exactly what I was going to say right after, because it's like we go to a forest and we have to set up offices in the forest, so they bring in trailers. They bring in all the shit they need to like start doing all the paperwork to get everything cut down. All these bugs and animals, never seen people before. We fucking go, do whatever we need to do, and we leave. Sometimes they leave things behind. And what if all those bugs, the moon is essentially a trailer in space that they left behind. That they're like, oh shit. They did whatever they needed to do here, left it, and we're like, yeah, we don't need this one anymore. We can take off. Or we did it, or a race,
pre-technological society humans
that destroyed themselves or something, or went somewhere else because they got smarter, and we're like, oh, and then we had to start all over again, like, just keep going. But that's, I think that's so, I think that's such a cool concept.
And in that realm, some of the materials that are on the moon, something like helium-3, we basically only have helium-4 here. Helium-3 we have in volcanoes, but helium-3 can be used in nuclear power plants, and it would give us, let's say this nuclear radioactive material we use for a nuclear plant would give us 3 years of radioactive work. Helium-3 would give us 30 years with no radiation. So like,
but where's the fun in
to
that?
own that? Nobody owns it.
I mean,
businesses are going to go get that shit.
No,
yeah,
but
dude.
I heard that like if we do that, it's gonna make our voices so high.
I'm the new human. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi, it's me.
Why don't we drill into it?
It's a moon person. Get up.
He brings you love.
Why don't we drill into it? Get in there.
I think we have been.
That's what the moon punch was.
I generally
right?
think that we've been doing that. Well, the moon punch was to test that out, to see if that we could essentially how hard it is.
What's
and what
the
kind
moon
of
punch? I'm sorry.
And when we dropped all
Crashing
this stuff
thing into it,
when we dropped the lunar lander in to see the ring, all of that was essentially to test out a bunch of things for that. Have you seen? It just popped in my head because it's always funny. Or not funny. It's actually kind of weird, but the interview after they got back,
that's my favorite.
Were they talking about no stars and stuff?
Nuts. Because you're like, the whole concept, or the
bored and stressed,
dude. The conspiracy thoughts of even that theory of that they saw some shit that they weren't supposed to see. Because there's even audio that was cut out that they released that it's just one of the guys being like, "Oh yeah, it's right over us. Oh man, it just keeps following us around." And they're like, click over to 2, and it was a private thing. And he comes back, and you just hear him go like, "What did he say?" He said to the other, I think Buzz Aldrin or whoever, was like, "Well, what do we want to do about it?" He's like, "I don't know. They told us just to lay low for right now." And then they're just talking, and then you see the interview afterwards, and they looked so like either depressed or tired or I get that they were just in space, but man, it looks like they're like, "How was it being on the moon?" And he's like, "It was fine.
It was
great." Like it was just so like, what the fuck?
Okay, fine.
They should have sent a poet.
Oh.
Damn.
None of them want to do all the work.
The poets?
Yeah, they like can't do like a.
You don't got to,
they
man.
can't do a chin lift or anything.
You just throw one in there.
I like that.
He can look at the stars and come back with a full thing.
What? Can I ask you this? Now that you've heard all of this, if maybe you did or didn't know, what do you think? What is your theory now?
Oh man, I'm so apathetic about this stuff. I like it. It's fun. It would be cool. I want to fly the moon. Can we get in there, fly the moon around, just wreck Earth completely?
Yeah, it's like you would destroy us.
Just go to some other solar system in our moon.
You
That'd
can
be fun.
ride the moon, and we can have the song "Came in like a wrecking ball," and just like crash into Earth.
You gotta put the moon back exactly where it was.
Don't move it, honey.
Like the idea too of us like starting up the moon and just shakes off all the moon dust, and the face on the moon is like.
It's back tonight.
It's this beautiful chrome ship. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
What if they were like, yeah, we shook off everything, we cleaned it up, we vacuumed all the dust off,
Yeah.
and they'd be like, but it's still gonna be there. So y'all are just staring at a silver ball in the air. So
and it's just reflecting instead of like.
It's actually supposed to
Make
be
it hotter.
light. Yeah.
That would be great.
It's like the opposite of an eclipse. It's just a
Maybe-
big laser mark across the.
Maybe that's why the dust is there.
Oh.
So the sun doesn't reflect off of it and hit us.
Well, a lot of the things that they say about the metals that are found on the moon that are around it, they're all like cold conducting metals. They're metals that don't heat up. So it is strange. Like if you were going to make something that's supposed to last billions and billions of years for the creatures on the earth to evolve and finally discover, like, don't you think you would make it something that doesn't heat up and
But
something that like creates anomalies that are mysterious that you would want to check out?
But don't you think if it were a spaceship, it was like an escape pod, and we're not supposed to fucking get back into it and like move
I mean, maybe it's like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, you know, they put the obelisk in the beginning, and apes touched it, and our minds expanded and became man, and then they discovered that weird like thing on the moon, and they're like, look at this thing, we found it, and they touched it, and it like sends a radio signal all the way to, is it Jupiter? Saturn? One of Jupiter, Saturn, and it's like, well, now we have to follow that, you know? It's like, maybe there's something there that we're supposed to find. And then we're supposed to figure out the technology so that we can leave our planet and go seed another planet,
So
you know?
it's Sisyphus, right? It's just constantly pushing a rock up a hill and then fucking.
But maybe that's like what we're supposed to do as humanity. Like maybe that's our end goal.
We just ruin planets and move on to the next
I
one.
mean, maybe we don't ruin the next one. Maybe the next
Learn,
one they'll
learn,
like
learn.
vote for Al Gore
It'll never
like-
happen.
Well,
If it were a
never
simulation, it would be like trying to get us to go to space too.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Did you
haven't
get
been,
there? Did it
yeah.
work?
There's speaking of boulders, there is photos of these boulders on the moon's face that keep moving like miles at a time.
Mhm.
So like, what the fuck is pushing this? Like tracks pushing a boulder.
Yeah, those
up and
tracks are
around.
weird because you can see that they have happened after a lot of the craters.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, then if it happened at some point, it always goes into the darkest areas that you can't see behind. So it always kind of comes in and out of those areas. It's very weird. And there's lights that people have like from
I've seen those
1540 have from that until 1970 they took a census in 407 or 570 different cases of people seeing lights, and I think they're like lunar, they're called something lunar phenomena, but it's
like
crazy
those
that they're like all
flashes.
real things
Ugh.
that have happened.
You know
So it's
what?
very
You know
odd.
what they're looking at now is if we are going to go to the moon, we could send 3D printers to the moon, use the moon material. They're finding these volcanic tunnels that go like kilometer. I know it's a kilometer to mile. Like they go really deep. We send these printers out and then seal off the top so that we're protected. Because one of the biggest problems too of going back to the moon is like we were very lucky, and our magnetic sphere was very different back then, magnetosphere, whatever. Now it's like really like crazy out there. So like we would lose astronauts walking around the moon because of all the solar activity and the way that our magnetic field has changed. But if you could seal off the top, you could terraform these volcanic tunnels and then have a base there too.
There was I don't know how much if you guys have ever talked about like the people that see in, I don't know what it's called again. Shit.
Remote viewing.
Remote viewing. Have y'all talked about that yet?
I think-
And
yeah.
other things? Oh, well, there was this guy that they had, Uri Geller.
Yuri Geller.
They asked him to remote view a couple of things, and apparently like he was really high on the spectrum of remote viewing. So they're like, just these are the coordinates, because he could see as long as he had the coordinates, he can
Yeah,
see
they
things.
didn't tell him it was.
Yeah,
the
they didn't
moon.
tell him anything, and he's just like, well, I see a couple of just looks like tubes in the desert, and he's like, okay. He's like, what else do you see? And he's like, a couple of structures, this and this. He's like, some people in it. I'm walking towards them. They see me.
Yeah.
And that's all he said. He's like, they see me, and they're like, oh, okay, wake up. So they woke him up, and they're like, he's like, oh, that was really weird. What was that? And apparently they're like, oh, it's the moon.
It's the
And
moon.
he's like,
Didn't he see
he got
Obama
so
on the
mad.
moon?
yes.
Yeah, see, come on. You can't leave that part out. He saw fucking Obama on the moon.
No, not Uri Geller.
Oh no, that
There was another guy, I forget his name, who claimed to have met Obama on the moon because he was one of those
That's
children
right.
of the CIA
Oh,
through
yeah.
the Looking Glass.
It was an
That's a little
indigo
interesting, yeah.
child. Is
Indigo
that?
kids.
No, he
Indigo
was
children.
one of the kids of the projects of the energy mirror based off of the
Stargate.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading that. But yeah, so if he's seeing that without anybody telling him, if it's real, and the fact that people have been like, yeah, we've seen tubes and shit on the moon and all this other stuff. Also, Garrett and Dave were like, I told them slowly about, I was like, oh, this is the topic we're doing. I thought it was really funny because they're like, oh, just go watch James Bond, Moonfall. And I was like,
God.
oh, yeah. Everyone just kept saying, have you seen Moonfall? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, yeah, you should just watch it because it's essentially about the moon being hollow in a spaceship or whatever. I'm like, what?
Oh, I had no idea that's what
I
that was
did not
about.
know that. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah.
But so like the crazy thing is there is a space race going on, but it's not a space race. It's who can make all the money off of the moon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the last thing we can mine that's not here on Earth.
Whoever, yeah.
But why? I don't know. Yeah, maybe this whole time is just them figuring out who's going to own it, the highest bidder. And then that's why we haven't been back. They're like, well, don't touch it. It's like a house that's going up for auction. They're like, well, don't move anything. Maybe they might want the stuff that's inside.
I hope it's just like a big nest of hibernating insectoids. And then when they start like mining things out of the moon, they just wake up and they just like, start killing everybody.
And that's how we go.
That's
that
how
would
we
be
go.
fun.
Yeah. It'll
I'm
be
into
great.
that.
They're coming.
Oh, Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be like Starship Troopers.
Mhm.
I'd be in a team with you guys. Would you be in a team with me?
I'd be into it.
If we get those guns, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen you put up a tent, bud.
Hey,
Definitely.
it's true.
What else is in this book that you want to touch on?
I mean, just really quick, this is some like weird number coincidence stuff. Do you mind if I read directly from the book?
No.
So, the number that was chosen as the planet's spin rate per orbit of the star, which would have to be instantly recognizable as a value that was unique to the planet, a natural pin, if you will, for the entire world. So in this case, it was a planetary identification number that was required. At the required time window, the planet would be rotating at a rate of 366 revolutions for each orbit around its mother star. So that's like a whole year's 366. And the use of the number value 366 would therefore be easily spotted as the planetary identification number. The intelligent creatures would realize the pin number from an early date, as it requires only basic astronomy to appreciate that this 3-digit number is the most fundamental of all numbers that are unique to the planet. Surely these Earth-dwelling creatures would be very surprised when they calculated the relative size of their planet to the orbiting regulator and discovered that the one is 366% larger than the other. So we are 366% larger than the moon. The regulator is also engineered with a pin number that was meaningful to the intended intelligent creatures. That number would be the reciprocal of the planet's pin, the mirror image of 366. In mathematics, that would be the number would be arrived by considering its size as 100% and dividing it by the relative size of the planet, namely 366%. So 100 over 366 is, as a decimal, 0.27322, which is the time it would be orbiting the planet at a rate of once every 227.322 planetary days. That's how long it takes for the moon to go around the Earth, is 27.322.
So
That's like about the rate of a normal menstrual cycle too.
All of these ratios point to the fact that
Girls have periods.
they look
true.
like
Oh my God,
clues
it's true.
because
Which?
you're supposed to notice this shit.
Yeah, like if you were an intelligent planet, at some point you would stop taking the moon for granted and start wondering what it was there and start trying to figure out the math. Like, how far away is it?
Yeah, but
Why
I
is
watched
it
this.
here?
I watched this movie called 23, and 23 is pretty crazy. If you
And-
just look into numbers, you can find coincidences everywhere. Is my point.
That's true. I just think like there's way more math in this
I mean,
book.
it's
It was
like
the
the-
only thing I saved. There's a ton more math.
It's also the ratios of what you were talking about earlier, how far things are from each other, and even the ley lines on Earth are nuts when you really look into what they hit, even supernaturally, how those ley lines hit. There are certain things that happen on those certain ley lines that all happen at the same time, like murders and shit.
Mhm.
So I think that's really like,
I
it's
don't
just
know.
weird. All of that is so, yeah, it's I don't know,
I
simulation.
didn't roll my eyes at you. I rolled my eyes at the chat. They were like
Wow.
wildly off. Wild. I didn't realize everyone in the chat was like a fucking rocket scientist. Sorry.
Oh my god.
Would we
Sorry.
have to shower together
If what?
if we do a Starship Troopers? Do we have to?
We're
shower
gonna need
together?
one
Yeah.
shower.
Yeah,
so
why not?
we only have
Gotta
enough
save
water
water.
to shower together.
We can only shower with Casper Ending.
Everyone's gonna see my boner
Why is there a boner?
because
Why not? Why
Is it
not?
always a boner?
No, because it's
All you need
co-ed.
is a wiener shirt
Oh,
or
A
a
wiener
sack
shirt?
that you can tie around it. If you just had a wiener shirt, you
Yeah.
could shower
Put
with
a-
anybody.
put a rubber band.
It's a wiener shirt.
Yeah.
Wiener shirt?
It's a shirt for your wiener. It's like a sleeve.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Wait,
Like a
what?
Red
Your
Hot
balls
Chili
get covered
Peppers.
too, or is it just the wiener?
There was a 90-day fiance where this one guy didn't want to get into the Amazon because he thought the dreaded candiru was gonna like swim up his urethra. So he put a condom on and wore like this big rubber suit that totally covered his body. That's what it's gonna be. Wait, that's how we'll
So
all
only
be.
your head's gonna get washed, essentially.
It's just your face.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just show you guys my boner. It's fine.
Now it's the only way I want to take a shower.
All right. Well, we got to wrap it up. We're gonna continue this conversation on our Patreon. Are you gonna stick around for that?
Yeah.
Do you have any like projects that you want to shout out or anything? I don't know. Do you want your online presence to be known?
Sure. Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Lawrence_NBFX, as in no boy Frank X.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm on that.
Xylophone.
Easy to
Yeah,
remember.
Some very
Real-
cool photos, I guess. The things I post, I love posting because Dave Clock is the one that always texts me, "Whoa, bud, you gotta warn somebody when you post something like that," because he
I
finds
thought
it so.
someone was really
Yeah.
stabbed in the neck.
Sometimes I'll just send him things from set of just photos of people like gory because
Oh,
I know he
no.
doesn't. He hates it.
He hates
But I'll
that stuff.
I'll send it directly to him. All I get is a yeesh. I was eating. It's my favorite thing. But yeah,
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for listening. reallifescifi.show for all of our stuff. Lawrence, thank you for being here. We're going to continue the conversation. If you want to keep hearing it, patreon.com/reallifescifi. The moon's real, and this is all bullshit. This was an hour's worth of bullshit.
All right.
Sorry, it's just,
Holmes would say different.
just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. We'll see you next time.
If Sherlock
Oh my
Holmes was
gosh.
smart.